Hey YouTube, what is going on? Thanks for checking out the Straight SRTA YouTube channel, where we discuss all things SRTA related. Now today's video, we're going to focus on the starter. I'm going to walk through what went wrong with my starter, how much it cost to replace it, how easy or hard it was to replace it, total cost, parts, and then how to diagnose issues with your starter. But before I get into all of that, I do want to do a quick apology for the delay in the videos. So my GoPro kind of broke on me, unfortunately, and in the process of breaking, it corrupted my entire micro SD card, which had a ton of episodes on there. And then I tried using my phone, which I'm using right now, to record this video, and it kept having issues too. So this is literally my 7th time making this video. It's very, very frustrating. But I'm committed for you guys, all right? So let's get into it. Starters. So my starter went. I have a 2017 SRT8. I had 53,005 miles before my starter actually went. About 3 years or so of ownership. So I did my 3-year update. Starter was good. Literally finished the video, went on my honeymoon, came back, starter was shot. It wasn't a mechanical problem. It was a electrical problem. So there wasn't any telltale signs. Typically with starters, you're gonna have your engine turn over more sluggishly. You're going to have that clicking sound, which can come from either a dead battery or issue with an alternator, or a poor starter. But usually you can tell, right? Your car turns over many times before it starts. I mean, there's always something going on there where you can hear your starter issues. In my SRT, that wasn't the case. Because it's an electrical problem, there was no telltale sign. Turned on one day, didn't work. So in my instance, I turned on my starter, and I heard a very loud popping sound. So as we all know, our batteries are located under our passenger seat right next to me. And so that battery sound, whenever you short your positive and negative terminals, it's extremely loud. It sounds like a very popping action. That's what I heard, the mini explosion. So when I pushed my starter button, or my push to start button, heard a very loud pop sound. So being an electrical engineer, I knew immediately what it was. I knew it was my battery, but I wasn't sure if it was an issue where the battery was kind of corroded for the wires. It was an issue with my solenoid, because in between your battery and your starter, you have obviously your switch, which is your solenoid. You have a fuse. Now your solenoid has a fuse. I think it's either 20 or 30 amps, but not your actual starter. So if your starter does go, there is no protection against the battery, as I just found out. So in my case, push the button, big explosion down by the battery. I immediately knew something was off. But I didn't know where. So pull the battery out. It was at 7.5 volts. So our batteries do about 1,000 cold cranking amps, which is a lot of power, at about 14 volts. Batteries are between 12 and 13 volt batteries. When you charge them, you charge them to 14, and then drops back down to 13. But approximately 14 or so volts, shorted down to 7 at 1,000 amps, is a ton of power. So that all immediately shorted out. So big noise. So at that point, I had a root cause. Is it the battery? Is it the wiring? Is it the starter? What is it? So pull the battery out, recharge the battery on a slow trickle charge. I did a battery diagnostic test. The battery tested fine. So all of a sudden, battery's all right. Put it back in, pull the solenoid. So under the hood and your fuse box is your solenoid and your fuse. It says starter solenoid on there. Pull that guy out, push the button again. Now this guarantees the wiring from the battery to the solenoid is fine. No shorting issue. So if, for example, somehow the positive wire got shorted to the negative, that would have made a loud noise again, and I would know it's not a wiring problem, not a starter problem, not a battery problem. Anyway, that was fine. The fuse for the solenoid was fine too, so I know the solenoid doesn't have a problem, which only leaves the wiring from the solenoid to the starter or the starter itself. The only way to check that is to get under the hood and pull the starter out. So we did that. I went ahead and I bought the starter online. I went to, let's see here, MopowerFactoryParts.com. I paid a total of $445.48, and the part number is 5035322AC. So 5035322AC. It's called engine starter. Again, I paid $445.48. Nationwide shipping for $15.95, so a total of $461.43 with tax. I did go online today, and you can buy it right now for $405, so even cheaper than what I paid. But anyway, all in $450. I went to the dealer, just got it quoted there, and said what would it cost for the parts and labor? Over $1,000. So the part itself, they charge you list price, which was like $621. They may charge me like $605, but right off the bat, extremely expensive. Labor is about 3 or 4 hours. They charge me $400 or so, so we're talking over $1,000 to have the dealer do the work. Now I bought the part, went to my mechanic. He quoted me I think 3 hours or so for a $400 total, maybe 3.5 hours. So 400 or so bucks plus 400 for the part, so about $850 there. I did it myself. Well, actually, myself, my brother, my brother's friend worked on the starter, and they charged me $300, so I'm in like $750 total. Either way, it's a very expensive repair for your vehicle. Now, getting to it is not fun at all either. So there are many ways to install your starter. Some guys go through the wheel well because it is located midway up in the engine on the driver's side. So you can go through the wheel well and get it that way. Most guys go through under the car. We decided to go through under the car. Now, we watched some videos on YouTube. There wasn't a whole lot out there. And we started taking things apart. So we weren't sure exactly what to do immediately. We just knew that we had to get to this portion of the car, so we had to remove this brace and this thing and so on and so forth. So we kind of started taking things out as we got towards there. Now, ours took 11 hours. It's a quote as, I think, a 4-hour job or a 3-hour job. Point being that we were very careful. So we pulled the dry shaft out. It was rusted in there because, again, New York State salt. So it was hard to get it out. That took about 2 hours. The cross bracing for the transmission, those are Loctite in there. We didn't want to torque them off immediately. We were afraid of breaking them, so we were very careful. So we probably spent a solid 4 hours just being cautious, maybe 5 hours being very, very cautious in what we're doing so we don't damage anything. Now, for the next job, we know exactly what we got to do. I can guarantee it'll be done in 4, maybe 5 hours. But that initial methodology of what you're going to take apart, how you're going to take it apart, what you need to remove, that takes a little bit of time. So we did pull out our cross bracing for our transmission. We did loosen differential mounts. I don't think we needed to, but we did loosen them. We pulled out the drive shaft. We had to move the heat shield for the starter. And most guys say the starter kind of falls down in between where your heat shield, or yeah, you pull your heat shield out through the bottom where your drive shaft used to be. Most guys say your starter comes out in the same area. We tried squeezing the starter out and we couldn't get it out. So we actually ended up going through to the front bumper. So on the front bumper, there's a bunch of plastic plating for making sure you don't get a lot of rock salt and debris under carriage of the car. So by removing that front plastic, you kind of reach your hand over and pull the starter out. That's what we did. Fish the old one out, put the new one back in. We did need a very long extension to pull the heat shield around the starter. I think we had like a 24-inch or maybe a 20-inch extension just to get that bolt out. And that bolt was rusted in there. The heat shield itself was perfectly fine, but the bolt was rusted. Anyway, it took a long time, again, 11 hours to pull it out, put in a new one, but it worked fine. No issues with the starter whatsoever. Just a very, very long process. So if the dealer quotes you $1,000 for a starter, don't be surprised. It's a very tedious process, very expensive part. Your starter is probably like this big, as you guys can see in the picture I used. It's big, it has to turn over your 6.2 liter V8. It's going to need to be a larger starter. So that was a lot of fun. Now what I may do with my used starter, mechanically it's fine, it's just electrically there's a problem. So I might get the motor rebuilt inside the starter. It'll probably cost me maybe $200. There is still wear and tear on the mechanical end though, so it's kind of a pro and con and a risk there. You're going to save money by using a rebuilt motor, but the mechanical portion of the starter may end up going. It may only last you 2 more years, in which case you're doing this all over again. Just for a 2-year benefit, 1.5 years, whatever it may be. It is still an option though. Anyway, I'm going to drop the description below. It's going to have the price, it's going to have the part number, where I bought it, and so on and so forth. Again, right now it's $405. Definitely much cheaper. If you need to get your car towed, for example, which most of us are probably going to need to, add another $200 or so to your total bill, so like $1,200. It's very expensive, guys. Anyway, that is it for this video. In terms of future videos, I am buying tires right now. I am buying all-season performance tires. So we're talking about dry, wet, and snow. I will do a video on that. I looked at everything there is to look at. So how much force you can handle doing turns, launching, grip in your dry, in your wet, stopping distance, how does in the light snow, how does in heavy snow. So huge video on the way looking at tires. Now I am buying all seasons. I don't have 2 sets of wheels, so I don't bother changing them on and off. for different seasons. I may also include a snow video or a snow tire video as well as a dry and wet video, not just an all-season tire, but that'll be determined. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for checking me out. Again, more content on the way. Unfortunately, because my SD card had an issue, I lost a lot of content. It may take me a minute to build it back up. Also, I'm going to not post a video every 2 weeks. It's getting a lot colder out, so I'm going to be posting videos more doing inside stuff. So less outside, working on the car stuff, more inside, knowledge dropping, doing tweaks, that kind of a thing. I do hope to do another video soon with some fun racing, maybe some snow drifting, whatever may be on the way. But either way, this channel is very active. I have a ton more content on the way, and I hope to see you guys soon. If you haven't yet, subscribe right there. Again, a lot of videos on the way. If you got any questions, drop them below. Thanks, guys.